start.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone, and a pleasant welcome to all the students for the chemistry webinar. Dear children, it's the time for the second year chemistry webinar and for the 8 group elements, right? See, everyone will be speaking about the inert gas elements, isn't it? See, what is the meaning of inert gas elements and why do atoms combine? What is the reason why they are combining? And what is the stable gas configuration? Means how many electrons they has to attain the nearest inert gas configuration. About all these things you have learned in your first year, isn't it? See, every atom tries to attain 8 electrons in its valency shell, either by sharing electrons or by gaining electrons or by losing electrons. And what is that rule called as? Yes, octet rule. Octa means 8. Presence of 8 electrons in the valency shell is called as octet configuration, isn't it? And then coming to the inert gas elements, that is the 18th group elements or the zero group elements. Okay. See, I think everyone is very curious to know about the zero group elements. See, why they are called as zero group elements? What about their electron affinity? And what are the periodic properties? And why do every atom attains the nearest inert gas configuration? You will be hearing about this inert gas configuration in each and every group, isn't it? See, suppose if you take the example of 15th group elements, you will think that they contain 5 electrons in their valency shell and they require 3 electrons to attain the nearest inert gas configuration. Sixth group elements, they require 2 electrons to attain the inert gas configuration. Then 17th group, they require 1 electron to attain the nearest inert gas configuration. Isn't it? So everyone will be very curious to know about these 18th group elements and about their discovery also. See, their discovery is very, very interesting. Okay, so let's welcome Madhavi ma'am, PGT Chemistry from TSMS Pudu. So, good morning, Madhavi ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Uh,
Mm.
so today again you are here to explain us about the 18th group elements.
Yes, ma'am.
Already you have taught us 16th group, 17th group, and 15th group
15th group.
also.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
today I think by
P
this
block.
we will be completing the inorganic chemistry part, isn't it, ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am. P block will finish, ma'am.
Yeah, P block will be completed.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
dear children, in our next session we will meet you with the transition elements. So let's welcome Madhvi ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Telangana Model School webinars for second year intermediate. So today we are going to discuss about 18 group elements in P block, children. So which is the sixth chapter in your syllabus. So let us quickly review what are the subtopics that 18 group elements consist. So introduction and occurrence of 18 group elements and atomic properties of 18 group elements. In that we are going to discuss about electronic configuration, atomic radii, next ionization enthalpy, and then electron gain enthalpy. Then we'll discuss physical properties of 18 group elements and the chemical properties of 18 group elements. In that xenon fluorine compounds and xenon oxygen compounds, so their preparation and their properties, their configuration, the structure we are going to discuss, very important for your examination point of view. Next, after that we'll discuss about the uses of these 18 group elements. Okay, so now let us start the today's session. So children, you are very familiar about this figure, is it not? What is this? This is a modern periodic table, long form of periodic table, right? Okay, so you know that on the right hand side of this periodic table, we have P block elements. So P block consists of how many groups? Total 6 groups. That is 13 group, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18 group. Okay, about 13 group and 14 group already you have studied in your first year, is it not? Next, about 15, 16 and 17 group already we have finished these classes, is it not? Just you follow those classes, children. So next today we are going to discuss about 18 group elements. So now see what is 18 group elements consists of. So 18 group consists of helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, and new element, that is 118th element, that is arneson, right children? So last element in the periodic table, arneson, right? So these 18 group elements are also called as noble gases or inert gases or zero group elements, right children? So these 18 group elements consist of helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, and arneson. Okay, so 118th element, new element, last element in the periodic table. So why these elements are called as noble gases, are inert gases? Because these are um, chemically unreactive. Okay, so these are chemically unreactive. What it means? It means that they can able to form very few compounds. Okay, so their reactivity is very less, so they can able to form very few compounds because they are having the stable configuration. As ma'am said, what is the stable configuration? Except helium, all are having ns2 np6 configuration, means 8 electrons in their outer shell. So it shows that that is the stable configuration. So because of that, these elements, they are chemically inert, they will not react. Okay, very few compounds they can able to form, like a xenon and a krypton. Remaining elements are they cannot react. So that's why these elements are called as noble gases or inert gases, right children? Why these elements are called as noble gases or inert gases? Because the reactivity is very less, these are unreactive. Okay, so they can able to form very few compounds. So because of this reason, they are called as noble gases or inert gases. Now let us see the occurrence of these noble gases, that is helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, how they are obtained in the universe. Now let us see. All these gases except radon and agnoson, they occur in the atmosphere. So in atmosphere we have air. So the dry air consists of 1%, nearly 1% by volume of these noble gases, right children? So out of which argon percentage is more. Okay, so nearly how much percentage the for atmosphere consists of these noble gases? Nearly 1% consists of these noble gases, and out of which argon percentage is more. Next, helium and neon, sometimes they found in minerals of radioactive origin. So radioactive pitch blende and monazite, clavite. So these are the minerals of uranium and cerium. Okay, so these in these minerals also, this sometimes helium and neon are found, right children? So next, coming to helium. So the main commercial source of helium is natural gas. Next, coming to xenon and radon are rarest elements of the group. So they are very rare. And radon, it can be obtained as a decay product of radium. So radium 88 to 26, it undergo decay and it gives radon. So 86 to 22 by giving helium nucleus, that is He24. Okay, so helium is the commercial source of helium is natural gas, and xenon and radon are very rare elements in the group. And radon, sometimes it obtained as a decay product of radium. So radium 88 to 226 gives undergo decay and gives radon to 86 to 22. So this is atomic number, this is mass number. Okay, plus helium 2 4, right? So like that, the occurrence of these noble gases you can see. Next, coming to atomic properties. Atomic properties of 18 group elements. So now, as we have seen, so first one, electronic configuration. So these are having very special electronic configuration. Except helium, remaining all elements are having ns2np6 configuration. So see children, ns2np6 means in the outer shell, total how many electrons are present? Total 8 electrons are present, 2 electrons in s orbital and 6 electrons in p orbital. So total 8 electrons are present in their outer shell. So because of this stable electronic configuration, these are unreactive. They can able to form very few compounds. So that's why these are called as noble gases or inert gases. Okay, so since helium, its atomic number is 2, so that's why 2 electrons will be present in first shell itself. That is 1s2 is the general electronic configuration. Except helium, remaining all are having ns2 np6 configuration. Let us see. Helium, its atomic number is 2, neon 10, and argon 18, krypton 36, xenon 54, and radon 86. See children, if you know the atomic number of first element, you can able to calculate the atomic number of remaining elements. Is it not very easy? Just if you add 2 to 8. So first to the first element, if you add 8 to the first element, you will get the atomic number of second element. If you add 8 to the second element, you will get the atomic number of the third element. Okay, 8, 8, 18, 18, 32. So now if you add 18 to the third element, you will get the atomic number of fourth element. If you add 18 to the fourth element, you will get the fifth element's atomic number. If you add 32 to this xenon, that is 54 plus 32, you will get 86. Like that, 8, 8, 8, 18, 18, 32. If you add like that, atomic number of remaining elements of the group can be calculated. Okay, so now this is about atomic number. Now coming to the electronic configuration. So helium is having 1s2 electronic configuration. First shell is the outer shell. That's why it belongs to the first period. Next coming to the neon. So neon, so what is the outer shell electronic configuration? 2s2 2p6. Okay, so second shell is the outer shell. So that's why it belongs to second period. Next argon. So what is the outer shell electronic configuration? 3s2 3p6. Okay, third shell is the outer shell. That's why argon belongs to which period? Third period, because third shell is the outer shell. Next coming to krypton, 4s2 4p6. So is the outer shell configuration. So what is the outer shell? Fourth shell is the outer shell. So that's why it belongs to which period? Fourth period, because fourth shell is the outer shell, that is valence shell for it. So that's why it belongs to fourth period. Now coming to xenon, what is the outer shell electronic configuration? 5s2 5p6. So fifth shell is the outer shell. So that's why it belongs to fifth period. Valence shell is fifth shell. So that's why it belongs to fifth period. Next coming to radon, 6s2 6p6 is the outer shell configuration. So it means outer shell is the sixth shell. So that's why it belongs to sixth period. So like that, by seeing its their electronic configuration, by seeing its outer shell means we can call it as a valence shell. By considering its valence shell, we can able to predict the period number of an element. Okay. Next coming to group number. All these elements belongs to group 18. Why? Because in their outer shell, how many electrons they are having except helium? Remaining all are having 8 electrons in their outer shell. So that's why they belongs to 18 group. Is that clear, children? This is about the electronic configuration of 18 group elements. You have to remember. So this is the most important electronic configuration, stable configuration, that is ns2 np6 is the stable electronic configuration that 18 group elements are having, except helium, because helium is having atomic number 2. So only the first shell it is having. First shell is the outer shell for it. So in the first shell, we can able to fill only 2 electrons. So that's why its electronic configuration is 1s2, but remaining all elements are having ns2 np6 configuration, 8 electrons in their outer shell. That is the stable configuration. Next coming to atomic radii. So here top to bottom, what we have seen, number of shells goes on increasing, is it not? So because of that, what happens? Atomic radii will also increases. You can see in this graph, from neon to radon, the atomic size goes on increases, because the number of shells are also increasing. Because of that, atomic radii increases from top to bottom in a group. Next coming to ionization enthalpy. Children, just now only we have discussed ns2 np6 configuration except helium, all are having NS2 NP6 configuration, that is the stable configuration. So they will not, what is ionization enthalpy? The amount of energy required to remove an electron from an isolated gaseous neutral atom. So it means that already they are having the stable electronic configuration. If you want to remove an electron from their outer shell, huge amount of energy is required. So that's why 18 group elements are having high ionization enthalpy. So why they are having high ionization enthalpy when compared with the remaining elements in the periodic table? Because they are having stable electronic configuration. It is very difficult to remove an electron from uh, their outer shell because they are having a stable configuration, that is NS2 NP6 configuration, except helium. All are having a stable configuration, 8 electrons in their outer shell. So stable configuration, from the stable configuration removing of an electron is very difficult, so high energy is required. So because of that, ionization enthalpy of 18 group elements is very high. So now coming to in the same group, if you consider top to bottom size, atomic size increases because number of shells goes on increasing, is it not? So we know that ionization enthalpy is inversely related to the atomic size. So as atomic size increases from top to bottom in a group, so ionization enthalpy decreases, is it not? So in 18 group, top to bottom ionization enthalpy decreases. You can see this figure. So top to bottom, from neon to radon, if you see, ionization enthalpy goes on decreasing because atomic sizes goes on increases from top to bottom. So ionization enthalpy decreases. Okay, children. So ionization enthalpy is given in kilojoules per mole. So from neon to radon, if you move, then what happens? Ionization enthalpy decreases as atomic radii increases. Now coming to electron gain enthalpy. What is electron gain enthalpy? The change in the enthalpy or energy when an electron is added to a isolated atom. So if you give an electron, then what happens? There will be change in the energy. The change, it may be increase or it may be decrease. But means energy may decrease or increase, means it may be exothermic or endothermic. Energy may release or absorb. In case of a 17 group elements, children, we have seen that NS2 NP5 configuration they are having. So they require only one electron. So if you give one electron to it, they will easily accept. So that's why what happens, the electron gain enthalpy for 17 group elements is a high negative value. But here in this 18 group elements, if you see, they are having a stable configuration, that is NS2 NP6 configuration. They will not accept electron because already they are having stable configuration. So they are having a very least acceptancy of an electron. Is it not? No tendency to accept the electron, and therefore large positive value of electron gain enthalpy because already they are having stable configuration, NS2 NP6 configuration. So now that's why the tendency to accept the electron is very less. Okay, so because of that, electron gain enthalpy is high positive. You can see here high positive values for these 18 group elements, whereas in case of 17 group elements, we have seen, children, high negative they are having because they easily accept the electron, because NS2 NP5 configuration, if they accept one electron, then what happens? They will get a noble gas configuration. So already these 18 group elements are having stable configuration. That's why they are not having any tendency to accept the electron. So because of that, positive electron gain enthalpy for 18 group elements. Next, coming to physical properties. So up to now, what we have discussed, children, atomic properties of 18 group elements, in that electronic configuration, atomic radii, ionization enthalpy, and electron gain enthalpy we have discussed. Next, physical properties of 18 group elements. So all the noble gases are monoatomic. Why they are monoatomic? Because they are having a stable configuration. Already they got stability. So why to combine and why to exist as a diatomic, triatomic or mono polyatomic? So see, already they are having stability. So because of that, they exist as a monoatomic. Okay, right? So because these are inert gases, the combining capacity is zero because already they got a stability. No need to share or no need to gain or no need to lose because already they are having stable configuration. I8 electrons in their outer shell except helium. So that's why they exist as monoatomic. Okay. So they are colorless, odorless and tasteless gases. Okay. So these are colorless, odorless and tasteless gases because they exist in the at air atmosphere. Okay. So that's why they are colorless, odorless and tasteless. They are sparingly soluble in water. Okay. They partially soluble in water. They have very low melting and boiling points because the only type of interatomic interaction in these elements is weak dispersion forces. So these 18 group elements of children, they are having a very low melting and boiling points. You know, helium is very lowest boiling point it is having. So these elements, 18 group elements, they are having a low melting and boiling points. Why? Because the only interatomic interactions exist between these atoms is weak dispersion forces. Okay, so there is no any attractive forces, only weak dispersion forces exist between the atoms. Okay, so because of these weak dispersion forces, these are having a low melting and boiling point. Next, helium has the lowest, just now only I have told. Okay, so helium has the lowest boiling point, that is 4.2 K. Okay, 4.2 K means it is very less. Okay, of any known substance. Okay, out of known substances, helium is having lowest boiling point. And one more unusual property it is having: diffusion through the most commonly used laboratory materials such as rubber, glass or plastic. It can able to, helium can able to diffuse through the commonly used laboratory materials such as rubber, glass or plastic. Okay, so no other gas is having such type of diffusion capacity to through this rubber, glass or plastic, but helium can able to diffuse through this rubber, glass or plastic items. Okay, children. Next, coming to the physical properties of a group 18 elements, you can see here. So all neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, all are gases. That's why these are called as noble gases. And their atomic number 10, 18, 36, 54, 86. If you add 8 and 18, 18 and 32, you can able to get the atomic number of remaining elements. Next, these are having these isotopes. Next, atomic mass. As the atomic number increases, their atomic masses also increases from top to bottom. Just now only we have seen the electronic configuration. So for neon, 2s to 2p6 outer electronic configuration, argon 3s to 3p6, krypton 4s to 4p6, xenon 5s to 5p6, and radon 6s to 6p6 is the outer shell electronic configuration. Next, coming to atomic radius. So we have seen that top to bottom, as atomic number increases, so number of shells increases. So because of that, atomic radius also increases: 1.54, 1.88, 2.02, 2.16, 2.20. So like that in picometers it is. So in angstrom units. So what happens, top to bottom, it is goes on increasing because number of shells are goes on increasing. Okay. Next, density. As atomic number increases, mass number, atomic mass also increases. Atomic mass increases means density will also increases. So top to bottom, density increases. Next, melting and boiling points. Atomic mass increases, then what happens, melting and boiling points also increases. 24.56 for neon and 83.81 for argon and 115.78 for krypton and 161 0.4 for xenon and 202 for radon. So like that, top to bottom melting point increases. You can see boiling point is also goes on increasing 27.104, 87.30 and 119.74 for krypton and 165.05 for xenon and 211.5 for radon. So top to bottom melting point increases, boiling point increases, and atomic radius increases, density increases, next atomic mass increases, and number of shells increases, then atomic number also increases. Okay, children, so this is about the physical properties of 18 group elements. Next, coming to chemical properties. Okay, so just now only we have discussed these, they can able to form very few compounds. So why they are least reactive, why they are unreactive, why they are forming few compounds? Because of two reasons. One is already we have discussed, that is they are having stable electronic configuration, ns2 np6, except helium. Helium is having 1s2, but remaining all elements are having ns2 np6 configuration, means 8 electrons in their outer shell. So because of this stable configuration, they are least reactive. Okay, so what is the other reason? Other reason is they are having high ionization enthalpy, because already they are having stable configuration. From the stable configuration, if you want to remove an electron, it is very difficult. Huge amount of energy is required to remove an electron from their outer shell, because already they got stability by stable electronic configuration, that is ns2 np6 configuration. So that's why high ionization enthalpy is required to remove an electron from their outer shell. Next, they are having a more positive electron gain enthalpy. So already stable configuration, if you want to give one electron to isolated atom of 18 group, they will not easily accept. Okay, so because of that, they are having a positive electron gain enthalpy. So because of these two reasons, 18 group elements are least reactive. What are the two reasons for the least reactivity of 18 group elements? 18 group elements are having stable electronic configuration, except helium. 8 electrons are present in their outer shell. That is the first reason. And second reason is they are having high ionization enthalpy and more positive electron gain enthalpy. So because of these two reasons, these 18 group elements are least reactive. They are inert. Okay, so that's why these are called as inert gases. So but Neil Bartlett, so he was a scientist. First, he observed the reactivity of noble gases. See how he observed. Let us see. He prepared a compound, a red-colored compound. So see the formula: O2 plus PtF6 minus. So he prepared a compound like this, which is in red in color. So by preparing this compound, what he observed that the first ionization enthalpy of oxygen molecule is 1175 kilojoules per mole, which is equal to the ionization enthalpy of xenon. So for ionizing a xenon means removing an electron from the outer shell of a xenon. So how much amount of energy is required? 1170 kilojoules per mole, which is similar to the oxygen, molecular oxygen, is it not? So it means that by considering molecular oxygen, so he prepared this red colored compound. It means that by using xenon also he can able to prepare like that, he thought. And what he has done, he succeeded in that. So he prepared another red colored compound by using in place of oxygen, by using xenon in place of oxygen. Okay, how, what he has done, he mixed platinum hexafluoride with xenon, and he got a red color compound Xe plus PtF6 minus. It means that xenon can also react. So by observing this compound, he realized that xenon is having ionization enthalpy, first ionization enthalpy nearly equal to oxygen molecule ionization enthalpy, first ionization enthalpy of oxygen molecule. So after this discovery, a number of xenon compounds, mainly with most electronegative elements like fluorine and oxygen, have been synthesized. Is that clear, children? So what is that? Bretlet, what he observed, he prepared one red colored compound having molecular formula O2 plus PTF6 minus. By this, he observed that first ionization enthalpy of oxygen molecule is nearly equal to the first ionization enthalpy of xenon, that is 1117 kilojoules per mole. So by that, in place of oxygen molecule, he used xenon and he prepared again red colored compound, just simply mixing platinum hexafluoride with xenon. So he got red colored compound. So after this discovery, then what happened? Number of xenon compounds were discovered, synthesized. So with most electronegative elements like fluorine and oxygen. So now let us see the compounds of krypton are few only few compounds. So that is known one is krypton difluoride. Okay, whereas in case of radon compound, that is RnF2, radon difluoride, it is not synthesized, but it is observed, identified by using radio tracer technique. Okay, so radon difluoride is not synthesized or isolated, but it has been identified by using radio tracer technique. And argon, neon, and helium, because these are having the small size when compared with the xenon and radon and krypton. So because of that, their ionization energies are very huge. So because of that, their compounds are not yet known. Only xenon compounds, few xenon compounds, and krypton compound, only one krypton compound, and can be identified. And radon difluoride, it is not isolated, but it has been identified by using radio tracer technique. Okay, so now let us see the xenon fluorine compounds. So children, xenon, it can able to form three compounds. Okay, the binary fluorides. So three binary fluorides like XeF2, XeF4, and XeF6. Xenon difluoride, xenon tetrafluoride, xenon hexafluoride. So for the preparation of these binary fluorides of xenon, so just special conditions are required. Just simply combining elements under appropriate experimental conditions. So simply these fluorides of xenon can be prepared. Just to see here the preparation: xenon and fluorine. When xenon in excess and the temperature is 673 Kelvin and 1 bar pressure, so then what happens? Xenon difluoride is prepared and it is a solid. Okay, when xenon and fluorine are considered in 1:5 ratio at 873 Kelvin and 7 bar pressure, xenon tetrafluoride is prepared. Okay, children, just simply combining these elements, but the experimental conditions are different. For the preparation of xenon difluoride, what we have considered 673 Kelvin and 1 bar pressure, and xenon in excess. Whereas in case of a preparation of xenon tetrafluoride, condition is different, that is 873 Kelvin temperature and 7 bar pressure, but the ratio of this these elements 1:5 ratio. Xenon is 1 and 5 is fluorine. If you consider, then xenon tetrafluoride is prepared. And how to prepare xenon hexafluoride? So if you consider xenon and fluorine in 1:20 ratio, and the temperature is 573 Kelvin and 60 to 70 bar pressure. So under these conditions, xenon and fluorine combines in 1:20 ratio and they give xenon hexafluoride. So it is very easy to prepare. If you remember these conditions, just simply adding xenon and fluorine, these elements, directly we can able to get these fluorides of xenon. So xenon forms how many fluorides, children? Three types of fluorides, that is XeF2, xenon difluoride, xenon tetrafluoride, and xenon hexafluoride. And these are the methods of preparation of these fluorides. Okay, now This xenon hexafluoride can also be prepared when the xenon tetrafluoride is treated with O2F2. So at 143 Kelvin. Okay. So xenon hexafluoride can be prepared when xenon tetrafluoride combines with O2F2 at 143 Kelvin. It gives XeF6 plus O2. Okay. So not only by just simply combining Xe and F2, but XeF6 is formed, but this method is also used to prepare XeF6. So how to prepare XeF6? Xenon hexafluoride. So by combining XeF, when reacting XeF4 means xenon tetrafluoride with O2F2 at 143 Kelvin gives XeF6 plus O2, right? So now XeF2 means xenon difluoride, xenon tetrafluoride, and xenon hexafluoride are colorless crystalline solids. All these are colorless crystalline solids and sublime readily at 298 Kelvin. Okay, so sublime means directly they can able to convert into solid to gaseous state. So these are having capacity to undergo sublimation. Okay, at what temperature they undergo sublimation? 298 Kelvin temperature they undergo sublimation. They are powerful fluorinating agents because they are having a fluorine. That's why they are powerful fluorinating agents. Next, they are readily hydrolyzed even by traces of water. Okay, even if traces of water is also present, what they undergo? They undergo hydrolysis. Okay, for example, if you consider XeF2 is hydrolyzed to give xenon and HF and O2. You can see here, children, XeF2 when it is are reacting with H2O, even traces of water or moisture if present, then also they undergo hydrolysis. They can able to combine with water and they can give XeF2. It gives Xe means xenon plus hydrogen fluoride and oxygen. Okay, so like that they undergo easily hydrolysis if traces of water is present. So these reactions are very important to children. So in examination point of view, they ask the hydrolysis of these fluorides of xenon, then you have to write these equations. So when xenon difluoride on hydrolysis gives xenon Xe plus HF plus O2. Okay, next one more thing, xenon fluorides reacts with fluoride ion acceptors to form cationic species and fluoride ion donors to form fluoroanions. So children here just concentrate what is that. Xenon fluorides, when they react with fluoride acceptors, then they form cationic species. So, but when they react with fluoride donors, the fluoride ion donors, then they form fluoroanions. You can see here in this reaction, XeF2 plus PF5. So PF5 is a fluoride ion acceptor. So if a fluoride ion acceptor, if it reacts with fluoride ion acceptor, then what happens? This xenon fluoride, it can able to form cation. So see here, one fluorine, it is given to PF5. That's why PF5 converted into PF6 minus. And since it has given one fluoride ion to PF5, so that xenon difluoride is converted into XeF. Okay, so it has formed positive ion. Okay, cation. Similarly, you can see in this reaction also, when XeF4 when combined with the SbF5, SbF5 is a fluoride ion acceptor. It accepts fluoride ion. So then what happens? It converts into SbF6 minus. Since it has given one fluoride ion, XeF3 is left. So XeF3 plus cation is formed. Okay, so whenever these xenon fluorides, when they combine or when they react with the fluoride ion acceptors, they form cations. In these two reactions, you can see that PF5 and SbF5, they accept the fluoride ion. Because of that, these xenon fluorides, they formed cations. But in the second reaction, third reaction, you can see here, children, MF. MF means metal fluoride. Metal fluoride, this metal may be sodium, potassium, rubidium or cesium. Okay, these metal fluorides acts like a fluoride ion donors. Okay, so they donate fluoride ion to xenon fluorides. So in that case, xenon fluorides forms anions. So metal, from metal fluoride to metal fluoride, it has donated one fluoride ion to xenon fluoride. So already it is having 6 fluorines. So after accepting one more fluoride ion, then XeF7 minus, so anion is formed. Okay, and metal, it has a donated fluoride ion, that's why it has converted into M plus. Okay children, is that clear? So xenon fluorides, when the fluoride ion in presence of, when they react with the fluoride ion acceptors, they form cations. When they react with the fluoride ion donors, they form fluoroanions. So this is these three reactions, they show example for it. Next, coming to the structure of these xenon fluorides. First one is xenon difluoride. So the structure of these xenon fluorides can be explained by valence shell electron pair repulsion theory. So XeF2 is having linear structure. So actually it should consist of a trigonal bipyramidal structure. But here you can see it is having three lone pairs and two bond pairs, is it not? So because of these lone pairs, so this structure is linear structure. Otherwise all, or if all 5 are bond pairs, then it should get the trigonal bipyramidal structure. But this xenon difluoride is having 3 lone pair of electrons. So because of that, it is having linear structure. What is the structure of xenon difluoride, children? So linear structure. How many bond pairs it is having? 2 bond pairs. And how many lone pairs it is having? 3 lone pairs. So because of that, it acquires linear structure, right? So this is about the structure of xenon difluoride. Next, coming to xenon tetrafluoride, XeF4. So xenon tetrafluoride, if you consider, it is having square planar structure. So see children, it is having 2 lone pairs and 4 bond pairs. So actually it should consist of octahedral structure, but it is having 2 lone pairs. Because of that, it is acquiring square planar structure. Is that clear? So actually it should consist the octahedral structure, but because of the presence of 2 lone pair of electrons, it is having a square planar structure. Okay, square planar, because in a one square, all the fluorine atoms are attached to xenon. So 4 bond pairs, 2 lone pairs, right children? Next, coming to xenon hexafluoride. So xenon hexafluoride, this is the structure. So it is having distorted octahedral structure. How many bond pair of electrons it is having? 4 bond pair of 6 bond pair of electrons and 1 lone pair of electron, is it not? So see here, so this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So total 6 bond pair of electrons and 1 lone pair of electron. Actually, it should consist of a pentagonal bipyramidal structure. But because of the presence of lone pair of electron, it is having distorted octahedral structure. So this is the distorted octahedral structure. If all 7 are bond pairs, then it should consist of a pentagonal bipyramidal structure. But it is having 1 lone pair and 6 bond pairs. Because of that, it is having distorted octahedral structure. Next one is xenon oxygen compounds. So children, till now what we have discussed? We have discussed xenon fluorine compounds. Now we will discuss xenon oxygen compounds. So hydrolysis of XeF4 and XeF6 with the water gives XeO3, xenon tetrafluoride and xenon hexafluoride. On hydrolysis gives xenon trioxide, XeO3. Okay, now let us see the reactions. For examination point of view, these reactions are very important, children. You have to practice these reactions. Okay, xenon trioxide can be prepared by the hydrolysis of xenon tetrafluoride and xenon hexafluoride. First, we will see the hydrolysis of xenon tetrafluoride. XeF4, 6XeF4 plus 12H2O is gives rise to Xe plus XeO3 plus HF plus 3O2. Okay, so xenon trioxide is prepared. Okay, children. Next, coming to the hydrolysis of XeF6. So XeF6 plus 3H2O is gives us to XeO3 plus 6HF. So by simply hydrolysis of XeF4 and XeF6, XeO3 can be prepared. Okay, next one, partial hydrolysis of XeF6 gives oxyfluorides. So xenon, it can also form oxyfluorides, not only fluorides, not only oxides, but it can also form oxyfluorides. So XeOF4 and XeO2F2. Okay, xenon oxy tetrafluoride, xenon dioxide difluoride. So XeOF4 and XeO2F2 can be prepared by the partial hydrolysis. Complete hydrolysis of XeF6 gives XeO3, right? But partial hydrolysis of XeF6 gives oxyfluorides. Okay, now see here, XeF6, when it combines with one molecule of H2O, it gives XeOF4 plus 2HF. It means in place of 2 fluorines, 1 oxygen is substituted. Is it not? In place of 2 fluorines, 1 oxygen is substituted, XeOF4. Okay, when xenon hexafluoride, when it reacts with 2 molecules of H2O, so what you will get? XeO2F2. It means in place of 4 fluorines, 2 oxygens are substituted. Is because oxygen valence is 2 and fluorine valence is 1. So 1 oxygen, it can able to replace 2 fluorines. That's why here, so XeF6, when it combines with the 2 molecules of H2O, it gives XeO2F2 plus 4HF. Children, so very easy these reactions are. If you see here, so when xenon hexafluoride reacts with 1 molecule of H2O, you will get XeOF4. If it reacts with 2 molecules of H2O, XeO2F2 you will get. If it reacts with the XeF6, it reacts with 3 molecules of H2O, XeO3 is, you will get XeO3. Is it not? So very simple reactions. Okay. So with 1 molecule, so 2 fluorines are replaced by 1 oxygen, XeOF4. And if it reacts with 2 molecules of H2O, 4 fluorines are replaced by 2 oxygen atoms, XeO2F2. If it reacts with 3 molecules of H2O, then what happens? 6 fluorines are replaced by 3 oxygens, XeO3 will get. Okay, so like that, these oxyfluorides and oxides of xenon can be prepared. Next, coming to the structure of these oxides and oxyfluorides, XeO3, it is a colorless explosive solid and has a pyramidal molecular structure. You can see, children, so actually it consists of tetrahedral structure, but here the one lone pair of electron is present. So because of that, it is having pyramidal structure. Okay, XeO3, very, very important, children. Here, the structure of xenon fluorides and the structure of xenon oxides and xenon oxyfluorides structure is very important, and the preparation is also very important. So xenon trioxide is having pyramidal structure. How many lone pair of electrons it is having? One lone pair of electron it is having. Xenon is forming how many bonds with oxygen? So with each oxygen, it is forming double bond. What is the structure of xenon trioxide? Pyramidal structure. So how many lone pairs? One lone pair. Okay, it is a colorless explosive solid. Okay, is that clear, children? Next, coming to xenon oxyfluoride. Okay, XeOF4. Okay, XeOF4 is a colorless volatile liquid and has a square pyramidal molecular structure. So see, children, actually it should consist of octahedral structure, but it is having one lone pair of electron. Because of this lone pair of electron, it is having square pyramidal structure. So it is a colorless volatile liquid. Okay, and it is having square pyramidal structure. You have to practice these structures, children. XeOF4 is having square pyramidal structure, one lone pair of electron, single bonds with 4 fluorines and one double bond with this oxygen. Next, coming to uses, last topic of this 18 group elements, so children. So these noble gases are having the many uses. So first one is helium. Let us consider helium. Helium is a non-inflammable and light gas. So because of that, it is used in filling balloons for meteorological observations. Okay, so for filling balloons, so this because it is a very light gas, so because of that helium is used. That too, it is non-inflammable, so safely we can use this helium. So because of that, it is used for the filling balloons for meteorological observations. So it is also used in gas cooled nuclear reactors. Okay, so and one more thing, liquid helium, because as already we have discussed, so it is having the lowest boiling point of known substances. Okay, so 4.2 kelvin is the its a boiling point. So because of that, it is used as a cryogenic agent for carrying out various experiments at low temperature. What is cryogenic agent? Cryogenic agent is nothing but it is an agent used to cool the substance below its cryogenic temperature. What is a cryogenic temperature, children? So minus 150 Kelvin, minus 150. 273 Kelvin means 0 degrees Celsius. It means minus 150 Kelvin means very low temperature, is it not? So at this temperature, if substance is to be cooled, so in that case liquid helium is used. Okay, liquid helium is used as a cryogenic agent because it is having very low boiling point, that is 4.2 kelvin. Okay, so that's why various experiments which are conducted at very low temperature, in that case this liquid helium is used as a cryogenic agent. Next one, it is used to produce and sustain powerful superconducting magnets. So superconducting magnets, children, so these are essential parts for NMR spectrometer. NMR means nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometers. So you can see here nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometers. So these are very important and very costly ones. So for what purpose they have they are used? They are used to uh, find out the properties of matter, like chemical properties, physical properties, biological properties of matter can be detected by using these NMR spectrometers. Very important. So any matter, chemical properties, physical properties, biological properties can be identified or can be detected by using this NMR spectrometer. What is NMR spectrometer? Nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer. And magnetic resonance imaging means MRI. I think you have heard this word MRI. MRI scanning, I will call it as a MRI scanning. So it means for clinical diagnosis. So in that these magnets, for superconducting magnets, this helium is used as a superconducting magnets. Okay, children, used to produce and sustain powerful superconducting magnets. Helium is used because it is having very low boiling point, that is 4.2 Kelvin. Okay, is it clear, children? So these superconducting magnets are used in NMR and MRI systems. Okay, NMR means nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer, and MRI means magnetic resonance imaging. Magnetic resonance imaging, so which is used for clinical diagnosis. Okay, children. So next one, it is used as a diluent for oxygen in modern diving apparatus because of its very low solubility in blood. Okay, so these are the diving apparatus, children. So these they carry these diving apparatus. So they consist of compressed air. So under sea pressure is very high. So in that case, these gases they dissolve in blood. But if you add helium, so helium is an inert gas, so its solubility in blood is less. Okay, so because of that, to dilute that oxygen, this helium is used because helium is a inert and it is less soluble in blood. Okay, is that clear, children? Very very important point, examination point of view. For 2 marks you may get this one. Why helium is used as a diluent for oxygen in modern diving apparatus? So what you will write? So helium is inert gas, so its solubility in blood is less. So because of that, helium is used as a diluent for oxygen in modern diving apparatus. Like that, you have to write for 2 marks. Is it clear, children? Next. Neon. Neon is used in discharge tubes and fluorescent bulbs for advertisement display purpose. So for advertisement purpose, we can see here. So these are the neon neon discharge tubes are fluorescent bulbs, children. So for advertisement display purpose, this neon is used, and neon bulbs are used in botanical gardens and greenhouses. So in botanical gardens and greenhouses, these neon bulbs and neon discharge tubes are used. Okay, so this is about the uses of neon. Next, coming to argon. So it is used mainly to provide an inert atmosphere in high temperature metallurgical process. High temperature. In low temperature case, helium is used. Whereas in case of argon, it is used in a high temperature metallurgical process. For example, arc welding of metals or alloys. In case of arc welding of metals and alloys, this argon is used mainly to provide an inert atmosphere. Okay, so and for filling electric bulbs also argon is used, and it is also used in the laboratory for handling substances that are air sensitive. So air sensitive substance, if we have to handle, so in that case argon is used because it is inert. So in the inert atmosphere, those substances which are air sensitive are handled. Okay, so that is the use of argon. Next, coming to xenon and krypton. So there are no significant uses of xenon and krypton, but these are used as a inert gases in light bulbs designed for special purpose. So for special purpose in inert gases are used in means xenon and krypton are used in light bulbs designed for special purposes. Okay, so these are the uses of 18 group elements, children. So we have finished all the topics, subtopics in the 18 group. Now here I have given some important questions in 18 group, children. So you just go through this. So very easy. So just your practice is required. How are xenon difluoride and xenon tetrafluoride are prepared? Just simply experimental conditions. Xenon and fluorine are mixed, and in the special experimental conditions, if we consider, we can easily prepare xenon difluoride and xenon tetrafluoride. Give their structure. So already we have seen their structure also. Explain the reaction of following with the water: xenon difluoride, xenon tetrafluoride, and xenon hexafluoride, how they react with water. So those reactions you have to mention. So you will get for 8-mark question. Next, how are XeO3 and XeOF4 prepared? So already we have seen. So from XeF4, F6, when it reacts with one molecule or two molecule, three molecule of water, how they got different oxides and oxyfluorides, is it not? So give their structure. So their structure also we have discussed, children. Just go through this. Next, list out the uses of neon. And modern diving apparatus, a mixture of helium or oxygen is used. Why? So because helium is an inert gas, so the solubility of helium in blood is less. So as a diluent, helium is used in diving apparatus. So these are the important questions. So you just practice these important questions from 18th group. So children, since we have finished uh, P block elements, so with this P block elements completed, so that's why I have given mentioned here all important questions from 15th group, 16th group, and 17th group also, along with 18 group elements. You just go through these questions, children. So just to practice, then what happens, P block elements, all questions, important questions will cover, so that you can able to get more marks. All these are from important questions from 15th group. So along with marks. So these are the important questions from 16th group. And these are the questions from 17th group. So 16th group, 15th group, 16th group, 17th group, and 18th group. Total 4 groups. Important questions I have given at the end of this session, children. Just you go through those questions, you just practice, then P block elements complete. So now let us see what we have discussed till now. So introduction of 18 group elements and then occurrence of 18 group elements. In atomic properties, we have discussed electronic configuration, atomic radii, ionization enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy. Next, physical properties of 18 group elements we have discussed. Next, chemical properties in that xenon fluorine compounds XeF2, XeF4 and XeF6, their preparation and their structure we have discussed. Next, xenon oxygen compounds, xenon trioxide XeO3, so and xenon oxyfluorides also we have discussed, that is XeOF4 and XeO O2 F2. So these are the xenon oxyfluorides, their preparation and the structure we have discussed, and uses of helium, neon, argon and krypton and xenon we have discussed, children. So and last important questions are also given, you just go through that. All the best. I hope you have understood, children. All the best. Thank you so much. Thank you, well.
Thank you, Madhvi ma'am.
Thank you, well.
Here I have to mention one thing, ma'am. Like as water will be flowing, like the subject is flowing from your in your words, ma'am. Really, really, I had to appreciate your efforts for teaching the entire P block elements and also the other topics. You have taught us electrochemistry, then surface chemistry. Oh, I thank you a lot, ma'am. Really, I have to appreciate your efforts. While listening to your class, I felt this, and I should not forget to tell this. That's why I'm telling, ma'am. Really, as water will be flowing, like that subject is delivering in your words continuously without any interruption, ma'am. So, thank you, Madhvi, ma'am. Dear children, so please learn all the questions. See, there is nothing to tell from my side, as a ma'am has given all the questions which will appear from 15th group, 16th group, 17th group, and then from 18th group. Okay, so you will get 4 marks questions. As I already told you that in 8 marks also you will get a split of 2 4 marks, isn't it? So you can get from any one of the groups, like from 5th group or from 6th group. Okay, so don't expect a single question from a chapter, like one 8 marks question from one chapter only. So you'll get 2 4 marks questions for 8 marks. Okay, so that's what I want to tell you, children. So once again, we'll come back with another interesting session. So thank you, Madhvi ma'am. Thank you for your wonderful session.
Thank you, ma'am.